Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Zavinski,
And I am Todd Crawford.
and ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the Too Cool for the Comic Shop Christmas Spectacular.
Too cool for the Christmas shop.
It's chilly in here. I think we need to start roasting our chestnuts.
Yes, we do. So let's heat them up with some good movies.
Yes. So we're going to talk just statically, randomly. We're going to jump around. We're going to talk about Christmas movies that we either grew up with or, things that made an impression on us during the season. And I'll start. I'll start because I think it's kind of the brainwashing of family tradition. But I also unironically love this movie as a Christmas story. I think I've watched it probably just about every year since I was a little kid. I mean, so I was wondering, have you had any connections with this movie? Because this is kind of most people love this movie, I think. Some people hate it though, because it's just kind of like a commercial child look at Christmas, but it's kind of what it's meant to be.
Yeah, well, it's a funny thing because I saw this movie much, much later than most people do. So I saw the movie when I was, I believe, 18 for the first time, as opposed to growing up with it. And my first impression of the movie was that it's irritating. The kids are irritating. The way it's done is irritating. And I
Yeah,
think it is. But I liked the movie. I didn't dislike it. It was just kind of grating. And then I saw it
right.
the
Where
next
it's like
year.
it's the point is that it's grading.
Yeah, and then I saw it the next year and the next year. And the jokes were always funny, but they get funnier each year. Almost like a family story that maybe your grandfather tells you that gets a little more charming each time because it's a part of a family tradition.
Right.
And I definitely get why people who grew up with the movie cherish it so much because even having seen it only 3 or 4 times, it's gotten exponentially better with each viewing. And
Right.
one thing I got to point out is that one of my favorite characters of all time is Kolchak, who is played by Darren McGavin, who plays the father in A Christmas Story. And A Christmas Story was directed by Bob Clark, who did Black Christmas, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies, which is a slasher film that takes place during Christmas.
Wow, I did not know that that was like the same director. Interesting.
Now I'm referring to Black Christmas, the one from I believe the 70s, the not either of the two remakes. To be specific, 'cause I guess
Right.
there's multiple films with that title now.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I love the dad in the Christmas Story. He is truly the like the dad and the mom. Maybe it's because I'm an adult now. Those characters get funnier with age, because you really see the kind of like things that make them tick, and just how they're like scrambling to be parents, but they're also just insanely weird. And I think everybody kind of resonates with that. I mean, because I think you and I have like weird families and say weird things and do weird things. And there's something about A Christmas Story when you're watching it with your family and everybody is laughing about a sex joke, like the leg lamp. The leg lamp is just a blatant sex joke, but somehow it is family friendly. I don't understand. It rides the line so interestingly, and that never fails to amaze me. And the older I got, the more I got a kick out of it, and I would pick up on like new lines, like the narrator is like, the neighbors were staring at the glow of electric sex in the window, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm sitting with my parents and they're laughing. Like it's just it's a weird situation. If it was any other movie, it wouldn't be laughing, you know?
That makes sense. And one of the things for me, like you said, I identify more with the parents, especially the father, with each viewing. And as a kid watching it, I never really identified that much with Ralphie. I think if I saw it as a kid, I would have. But as a teenager, I was a bit too old. So he was like an irritating younger
Right.
brother back then, which is the point. He
You
is
don't
supposed to
identify
be.
with him thinking he's the best essay writer of all time?
No, because I wasn't. But he's supposed to be, and that's a realistic child, and I appreciate that, especially as I'm older. But I identify the parents, and when he does things, sometimes you get this reaction shot of his parents just like confused, and it's such a funny thing that they capitalize in this film where you have a kid and you love your kid, but kids are weird, and sometimes they say or do things that in Ralphie's mind is perfectly logical and makes sense, but his mom or his dad just look at him and it's like, what?
Yes. Just the complete, utter breakdown of communication is really the family dynamic in the whole movie.
I think my favorite joke in the movie, and this one always gets me, is when he swears and he says he heard it from his one friend, which was a lie. And then his mother calls the friend's mother. And you just hear him like screaming and beating at this kid.
Oh, absolutely.
And the mom just slowly puts the phone down.
And basically the mom and Ralphie, everyone knows that the father swears. No one's willing to confront that fact.
Yeah, it's great. I have to give a lot of credit for this movie too, because it inspired one of my favorite shows of all time that I finished watching this year, The Wonder Years, which was essentially pitched as a Christmas story but for all year round. And I was already wanting to talk about that show briefly because it has some amazing Christmas episodes. Particularly, I think it's the first or second season, and I know you haven't seen it, so I'll keep it brief, but the two children of the house, well, two of the three kids at least, want a color TV that's new at the time that this show takes place in the 60s. And the dad, one of the best TV dads ever by far, speaking of great dad characters, keeps saying, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And the kids keep asking for it and hoping for it. And at the end of the episode, what the show does so well is it runs a gamut of emotions where in the same episode, you'll be laughing 3 times. And then, like, by the next commercial break, you're practically in tears. And they could be happy tears or sad tears or sometimes both. It's just an incredible mastery of tone that I've never seen the likes of, especially for a 20-minute program. And this is a mostly comedic episode. And by the end, they have a nice Christmas together, just the Arnold family. And, the narrator is narrated by Daniel Stern, who's in Home Alone, my favorite Christmas movie of all time. And he mentions, I'm getting the colored TV for Christmas like 3 years later. And something about that's just so real and so true to life and just the economic realities, especially for a show that old, before the golden age of TV, has always stood out to me.
Right. It's funny how we have kind of a nostalgia for things that we didn't grow up through. And, some of these eras our parents didn't grow up through. But that kind of almost like the 40s onward is kind of like where our Christmas nostalgia begins in pop culture or history, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I am currently looking through some of the best Christmas movies of all time, just on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm looking. I should quote air quotes best Christmas movie. I'm like, what the fuck are some of these? like plot stoner comedies and stuff like that. It's like, this isn't like Bad Santa. Okay, that makes sense. But
Bad Santa. That movie was okay. I think I watched it once. It was
it's not a favorite, but what I mean is, like, I don't know that the modern times are very Christmassy in general. The most recent Christmas movie, there's Klaus, which came on Netflix about a year ago, and that was a very good movie.
Actually, I saw that too with Colton. We watched it in like February, so we were like late on the train. We didn't watch it for Christmas. That was really good, actually. I felt like I came away from Klaus thinking that, oh wow, I can see this being like a modern Christmas classic now.
Yeah, I'm not quite as huge on it myself. Like, I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it. Like, I give like an 8 out of 10, which is very high. But like, if I was a kid at the time seeing it, I might be that positive. And it's just a very good movie that surprised me.
Think about it, right? It's like, it's certainly more deserving of rewatches around Christmas than, say, Tim Allen's The Santa Claus or Jingle All the Way or whatever other bullshit there is.
What are your thoughts on Elf?
Elf is overrated.
I really
Um,
like Elf. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think it's a very charming family movie. I remember seeing it in theaters and just
yeah.
loving it as a kid.
Elf is one of those movies where it is a good movie. Um, I don't know if it's a great movie. Like it's very clever and charming. But I think it's just one of those movies where it's everyone is so over the moon for it. And like to me, it's like pretty funny. It's got a few good jokes, got a good message. Will Ferrell is funny. I like the stuff, especially that they do with like the stop motion, the North Pole stuff. It's kind of harking back again to that like '60s era of stop motion and Rudolph and Santa Claus shorts and Jack Frost and everything. But again, I don't know. It's not like a top tier for me. It's not a top tier Christmas movie. It's pretty good.
That definitely makes sense. And I'm looking specifically at the Rankin Bass Christmas movies. I'm trying to remember the title of my favorite one, which of course is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It wasn't Rankin Bass that did it, but Frosty the Snowman and Return of Frosty. I loved both those as a kid.
Right.
Those
Those
are
always get roped
classics for
in,
me.
even if they are a different animation style.
Yeah, it's funny how they are kind of roped in, even though it is totally different. I'm trying to find. I think it's called Santa Claus Comes to Town.
Yes,
Is
yes, I
that
think it
it?
is.
It's the
Yep.
origin of Santa, and he's a
It's
redheaded
like the
fucker,
origin story.
and
That's
he
the
loves the
Batman
teacher.
Begins of Santa Claus.
Yes, I absolutely love that one, and always have. That one is
Yeah, I
by
mean that
far.
one's probably the best. That one's really got a good moral message. Whereas if you look at Rudolph, Rudolph just kind of glorifies bullying for like half the runtime, and then everybody decides to stop being a dick.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Rudolph as a kid. I'm not going to talk smack on it. I think the design of Rudolph's iconic.
Right?
Uh, it just doesn't hold up. I watched it a few years ago with a girlfriend, and like, it's a good movie. I appreciate it, but quite frankly, a lot of the movie just does not hold up for me.
Yeah, I mean when you think about almost anything in it, like from a somewhat mature, older than 10-year-old brain point of view, it's like, oh wow, Santa Claus is mean.
Yeah,
It's depressing, man.
and I think about that nice redheaded dude from the other movie, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, isn't there supposed to be a Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity here? Like, yeah, I'm very confused and concerned.
He just, I don't know. And I mean, I once again I'll reiterate: if you have kids, show them Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at least once and see if they like it. I appreciate
Oh,
its
for sure.
place in the canon. It is a good movie, just not for adults.
Right. I mean, it would be blasphemy to never see Rudolph. I mean, I was Rudolph for 3 years in show choir. Got my antlers stuck in a chandelier in a nursing home and get stuck. But I did hit the chandelier with my antlers.
Well, funny you
Long
mentioned
story.
that because I was in a Christmas play at my church as a child,
Are
and
you Rudolph?
no, so it was the birth of Jesus, and so I shoehorned away in that I could be Woody from Toy Story because the three wise men got Jesus, baby Jesus, a Woody toy. And that
Oh,
was me.
gotcha. See, I had really built that up to you being Jesus, so that was a huge letdown.
Even better.
Hey, we really came full circle for the Christmas theme. We got there. Oh, so you mentioned Home Alone as your favorite, so we might as well talk about Home Alone a little bit because it makes you warm and fuzzy inside.
Oh,
I want.
definitely. One of my favorite things I ever got. I got this from a friend, but also one of the only critics I've ever worked with in terms of like reviewing my own books sent me for Christmas one year Marv, a toy Marv, and I have that on my bookshelf, and I look at him all the time. And Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci in this movie are so funny. They're one of my favorite comedy duos. Um, I watch it every year, and one thing I have to say is the structures in this film is just impeccable. Where the comedy changes by the act almost, where it begins with the stuff with Kevin acting out towards his family, right, and being kind
Right.
of a rambunctious kid, and they lay it on too thick with the family being bullies, kind of like Rudolph. However, it's a
Yeah.
kids movie; they can't have subtlety, you know.
Right.
They don't need to call him a little jerk. That's a bit harsh, but once again, I excuse it being a kids movie. I mean, it's practically a fantasy. I mean, the way in which the family leaves Kevin and the McAllisters sleep in, it's like a scene from Final Destination where the music eerily plays and the tree branch falls over, knocking out the telephone line, and
It
I mean,
kills the kid that pisses himself.
yeah, like it's not like a fantasy with dragons, but like it's clearly heightened reality. It's not
Right.
a
Which,
fucking
hey,
crime drama, and
that's fair. I mean, our narrator is potentially unreliable. I mean, Kevin is kind of our window into Home Alone. So maybe some of it's exaggerated. In reality, what is reality? Hard to say.
exactly like the scene in which he goes downstairs and he's afraid of the furnace, and it comes alive and like breathes
Yes.
fire and all that. Um, but so the second act of the film, though, when he's home alone, it's a kind of a comedy with him being a kid that's also a bit too mature, and there's this fascinating fourth wall breaking, not just with him raising his eyebrows at you, but also where Kevin, it's weird where he acknowledges that he's a child and has certain mental limitations, but yet he's aware of those limitations and aware of what's beyond them, it seems like, while still being having the naivety of a child. There's just certain jokes about it that
He could be God. It's a jury's out on that.
definitely, but no, John Hughes, who's like in my opinion, the king of the 80s and family movies and general comedies, but his work with National Lampoon and that kind of rebellious Animal House comedy really comes out, but for kids and translates beautifully, where he's doing all the stuff that kids want to do instead of getting drunk and having sex in National Lampoon movies. He's now eating tons of ice cream, watching crime movies, which, I mean, Angels with Filthy Souls, and especially in the next movie, Angels with Even Filthier Souls, is two of the funniest things in movies ever to me. And then by the third act of the movie, it's now a slapstick comedy with almost Three Stooge like criminals.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just a complete rising action that's nonstop. And in both this movie and the second movie, um, you know, I really can't watch one of them without the other. I really think it's kind of a pair affair. Um, yeah.
They're
What
like
do you
two
think
turtle
about that?
doves.
Do you watch both?
Yes, I always do. And now I will say, I think the first movie is better as a film. It's a better story than the second. The second is a total sellout, go for broke sequel, and I love it for that. I love the setting in New York. I love that it's bigger. I love that it's more violent. I think it's a funnier movie, quite frankly, in certain
Yeah. I
scenes.
mean, I hear you, but I honestly, the first movie does deserve the credit for setting up the structure and things like that. The story isn't like mind blowing or anything, but I think almost everything is done better in the sequel. Like for instance, the sympathetic old person character. Like I like Pigeon Lady a lot more than Shovel Man.
That's funny you said that because that is actually the deciding factor for me why I like the first more.
Is it? So you're a Shovel Man kind of guy.
I am, and hear me out on this. As a kid, I thought they were equal. As an adult, now one thing is it's a little bit personal with certain members of my family. Actually, almost the same exact situation. I mean, there's really no reason to hide it, and it's not on my family listen, so who cares? My brother has a son who's never met my father because they've been estranged for a decade, and especially coming up around Christmas and knowing that dynamic and uh, having that in mind with Shovel Man in the church talking to Kevin about wanting to see his granddaughter and watching her choir really
Oh,
kind of touches me in that way and how I relate to that with my
right.
family, even as a bystander in that situation. On the flip side, Pigeon Lady, she's talking about she was in love with a man and he left her, and now she lives above an opera with a ton of pigeons. And I don't think, oh, you poor woman. I think, thank God that guy got away from this crazy bitch. What he had to put up with, I cannot even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not normally the next default decision to create a pigeon opera after a breakup. Don't
Especially
think.
with at the end of the movie when she has the pigeons attacking Marv and Harry. As far as she's aware, they're being murdered. They're being eaten alive by pigeons, and she's
And she's
counting.
essentially a Harry Potter witch at this point. That's fair.
Um, I do want to say though, I love that in the second movie they want to rob a little bit. They do petty theft in the toy store, but they want to murder Kevin, and they explicitly state this in the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
There's
The
a
stakes are so much more funnier, I think, because of that. Because in the first movie, Harry and Marv are shocked that this kid is so good. In the second movie, they just hate him the entire time, which I just find a bit more entertaining.
there's a line straight out of like Goodfellas that Pesci says in one scene where he says, "Pretty soon you're gonna be spitting gum out of your forehead."
It's so stupid.
I absolutely love the scene in the hotel room with angels with even filthier souls, in which he's talking about kissing everybody, and oh geez, Dr. Frankenfurter, I forget his name right now.
The Tim Curry and the hotel staff is great.
Yes, Rob Schneider, and he mentions, "I saw you smooching everyone, smooching Cliff," and it shows the janitor and his name tag says Cliff, and they all look at him.
That's amazing. Yeah, you do have that kind of secondary level of people going after Kevin, which is only Harry and Marv in the first movie. So again, it just kind of ups the stakes. And yeah, I mean, it's not like Picasso or Mozart here, but it's just entertaining. That's why I love Lost in New York so much. They're both great movies, of course.
Definitely, I laugh so much watching everyone, and there's two things in the first movie that always make me laugh. Like, I saw the first film when I was about 5 years old, and my grandma showed it to me. It came on TV, and we watched it. Her and my grandfather and me, and I thought it was the funniest, best thing ever. It was my favorite movie at that age, and I still laughed just as hard in two scenes particularly. I mean, I laughed through almost the whole movie both times, but the scene with "Why are you dressed like a chicken?" I don't know why, is so astoundingly funny to me every year. And the second one is the scene with the doggy door in which they're getting shot, and Mark he puts his head through the door, and it's a shot of him just looking through it, and you know he's about to get shot in the fucking head.
Yeah, no, that's usually that's towards the beginning of their assault on the abandoned building, I think. That's usually where the nonstop laughter began with me and my brother, I think, in that sequence.
And
There's just kinetic action is just nonstop in those, like, both movies, like 20 minutes of straight booby traps, just some of the best slapstick I think we've ever seen in cinema, honestly.
I totally agree. And so much of the shots are like, Roger Ebert did a review of the movie. He said that, like, when you're watching a cartoon with animals and they get hurt, it's funny, but when it's real life people with real anatomies, you can almost hear the bones crunch.
Right.
It really does, especially the second film. It's like a horror film where, like, there's a shot where a nail goes into Marv's face, or the scene where he gets hit in the head with like 4 different bricks that Kevin throws from on top of a building.
I know.
It just hurts, and it's like cringe inducing because it's just so painful. You could feel parts of it, and I absolutely love
it
that.
so much. I think it's why I love Home Alone too. It's like they just don't give a shit. Like, this kid is throwing bricks at men on the street. Like, God, we need more movies like that, man.
Oh, it's amazing. And I also want to say, I love the toy store in Home Alone 2 as well. I think the toy store is such a great setting.
is a charming element, and it ends up being part of the moral and the character arc for Kevin. And so to get the turtle doves, thank you, Kevin. That's my pigeon lady. I'll be here
um
all night.
yeah, the toy store owner behind the counter talking to him, talking about the charity and just the setting of the toy store. It feels like Christmas magic. That's the only way I can explain it. Is it just
Yes.
is the comfiest Hallmark movie Christmas vibes for me, and I absolutely love it. And once again, I mean, for me, and I am biased, I have nostalgia, whatever. I'm not being paid to review movies objectively. Home Alone and Home Alone 2 from here, just two tens. I just love both of them.
I mean, it's again like it when emotions and family and Christmas nostalgia are involved. It's like these some of our favorite Christmas movies are propelled on an ever rising cycle of being classic in our minds. So it's kind of hard to rate and review, which is I think is why we're just shooting the shit about them instead of like dissecting them because there's really no point because they're supposed to be fun and they're supposed to be joyful because God we all need a little bit more of that.
Exactly. It's just Santa magic. You can't break it down with science.
Yes, you cannot break down Santa magic with science. It's magic. Another one of my favorites, and I bet yours too, is the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Hate it.
As wait, you hate it?
I'm kidding. I love it.
Oh God. I mean, it was like, man, Todd likes dumb shit, so it was like I figured that would be in the same ballpark.
No, I think it's really funny. I mean, I will say I like that and National Lampoon's Vacation about equally as much. But I just, once again, go back to John Hughes. I absolutely love Christmas Vacation, and it's so funny. That's one of my favorite jokes of all time, verbally, when Cousin Eddie first shows up, and he's showing off his daughter's eyes that are no longer crossed, or she doesn't have a lazy eye anymore. He said that something happened when she was a kid, and it went crossed, and then she was kicked in the head by a donkey, and they went straight again.
Yeah. Oh, there's just so much. There's just so much that everything that Eddie does and everything that goes wrong naturally just feeds into the insanity that only Chevy Chase can really capture for the every man, father, and husband. Like one of my favorite sitcoms is Community, and obviously Chevy Chase is on that, and he's way older, but he always just has this edge to most of his characters, and that's in the Griswold character just so deeply, where you see a man just trying so hard to make everything good, and we all have dads, so it's like you can see probably most good dads in this character, where he's like, oh man, dad's really trying really hard to get a good Christmas tree, and then they like uproot an entire Christmas tree after having like driven under a logging truck to get there. It's just I love stuff like that.
Same, and I'm not as fresh on this one. I haven't gotten to watch it this year yet. I bought it on Blu-ray specifically to watch this year because it's been a few. But I can't talk about without mentioning Chevy Chase's performance, and I recently rewatched Vacation, and just every line he has is so well done. Where when they go into the hood to ask for directions, and he's calling out to the pimp, he's like, "Hey Holmes, how's it hanging?" in this like nerdy suburban dad way, and is building and building the whole movie until eventually they talk about not wanting to go to Wally World, and he just, I think it's his wife that says, what do you think, Walt? And he just turns and he's like, I think you're all fucked in the head, is one of the funniest moments in all of movies to me. And I think about it sometimes and just laugh.
Oh my gosh. I think the equivalent of that moment to the Christmas Vacation movie is, God, it killed me, especially when I was like a kid, because all of the profanity that he was saying felt so much bigger when you're a kid. Because like I watched Christmas Vacation probably too young. I was like 7 or something, and watching him break down when he gets the Christmas bonus, which is just the Jelly to the Month Club, and the absolute just breakdown that he has. And then he says he needs a Tylenol. Man, that shit had me crying when I was a kid.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so great is that it's like a boiler pot situation, and when he finally reaches that crucible and just explodes, you've been seeing it build to this moment the entire movie, so it's just so satisfying when you just get this ejaculation of rage.
Yes, that's a perfect way to describe it. An ejaculation of rage and I was gonna say nutmeg. Eggnog. Eggnog is very important. Eggnog is a crucial literary symbol in most Christmas films and
Before
TV.
I forget, I have to bring up that Ejaculation of Rage is playing at Howler's Saturday night at 7. Open doors, or open windows and doors and stuff, but you have to wear a mask.
Well, at least there's no danger of swallowing.
I was actually swallowing myself when you said that. I took a drink and I was just about to say, after I got, I was like, if he doesn't say anything, I'm going to say, not because of COVID.
Oh my god.
There's a few kind of odd ones I wanted to bring up real quick. I won't even get into it. There's a great episode of Twilight Zone where I believe it's a homeless man is he gets to be Santa, or he's a drunkard, one or the other, maybe both. He gets to be Santa for a day. Classic episode. Twilight Zone's always great, just wonderful humanism and fantasy.
Right.
But the next one is Gremlins, which what can you say? It's Gremlins.
Wait, is Gremlins a Christmas movie, or is just Christmas occur inside it?
It's a Christmas. It all takes place around Christmas, and that's where Gizmo comes from.
I've never seen Gremlins because they scare me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
yeah, they're so ugly.
Not too many Christmas movies. You get to see Dick Miller, so we can move on from that one. But
Dick Miller's Gremlins. Okay, I just have to ask this question: Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I don't care.
That is the correct answer, Todd.
Here's the thing. The Die Hard Christmas movie thing, it's one of those things that was funny when I saw on the internet in 2007, and each year it gets less funny. And I love Die Hard. Die Hard's one of my favorite movies. But fuck, can we...
Right, it's a funny observation, once or twice, but now everybody says it, everybody asks it. And I was watching Cinemassacre. We were talking about the debate and why it's why are we still asking that question? And he basically concluded that just to say it's a Christmas movie or to ask if it is just another excuse for fans of Die Hard to watch Die Hard just on Christmas.
That's fair. That makes sense. Yeah, nothing against Die Hard at all, obviously. It's a great movie. I guess how I see it is if you believe and you feel the Christmas spirit in your belly when you watch the movie, then it must be a Christmas movie.
Right. It's really what it means to you as the viewer. If you always watch Die Hard on Christmas growing up, or you want to start that tradition now, do it, please. Whatever pleases you. But let it be known that if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, then there are so many potentials. Batman Returns is a Christmas movie.
Kiss Bang Bang. The other guys. Yeah. Or no, is that what it is? The other guys with Gosling and Russell Crowe. I think that's it.
Oh, The Nice Guys, yes.
That's it, The Nice Guys, thank you. I was thinking the Will Ferrell.
I actually just watched that again a couple weeks ago. I really like that movie.
The Nice Guys?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a fun time. My favorite joke in it is when they have to hide the body and they push it over. There's a gated kind of wall. So they do it there we go. And it seems like the body's hidden. And then it shows the other side where there's a family eating dinner and a body just lands on the table.
That's one of my favorite jokes. I think my favorite joke in the movie is when Russell Crowe throws the gun in their house, and then he's like, "Here, catch." Or is it Ryan Gosling throws it? Whatever. One of them throws it, and it just goes out the window like 6 feet away.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's just dumb shit like that. Just we really lost that, man. Like for some reason, like the 80s and the 90s, man, we had like this gift where we just made dumb Christmas shit. Even the Star Wars holiday special, which is horrible, but if you've seen it, it is hilarious. Like 15% of the time, 85% of the time, it's weird and boring. But man, you just need to be in a certain mood
I was
to
gonna
enjoy
say,
it.
I have a weird thing with the Christmas special where like I'm fascinated by it and yet bored to death by it.
Yes, that is the both reactions simultaneously are correct. That's how I feel.
I just love the
All time.
idea of being a child and being so excited for the Star Wars Christmas special and watching it. And the thing is, I feel like most of the kids, like 8 years old, that age, they wouldn't be like, that sucked. That didn't have cinematic value like fans would be or whatever. I think there'd just be this kind of weird confusion and maybe a little bit of disappointment, but just not knowing how to process what you were watching. And that cracks me up so much.
Right. I think kids who probably saw it growing up, like my dad, for example, like they probably like honed in on the better parts, like the Boba Fett cartoon, which is also actually really bad, but it's better than the other stuff. So they probably just kind of like took those pieces in memory and forgot the rest. But it's a beautiful thing, though.
I
I still
also
love showing it to people and sharing it with my brother Colton. So it's
I
another one of those traditions.
I love the implication that Christ exists in the Star Wars universe and they're Christian and celebrate his birth.
Oh no, it's Life Day. Come on,
Oh,
Todd. You
that's
gotta
right.
research. Life Day is a Wookiee holiday. It's November friggin' something.
It's
Well, the funny thing is, they actually just did a Lego Star Wars holiday special on Disney Plus, and they released it on Life Day, the canon Life Day date. So there you go.
oh, it's still called the Christmas special. So there's
Well,
somewhere
maybe
in there.
I think it's called the holiday special. Todd,
Is
come
it
on, you
really?
gotta be singular.
Not
Oh,
in the 80s?
oh, dude, I don't fucking know. I was talking about the new one,
Oh,
man.
okay, yeah, yeah. Nowadays you
I
can't
don't
call
know
it the
what they
Christmas
called it.
special.
What did they call it?
I thought it was just called the Star Wars Christmas special. I'm looking it up now. I'm gonna be pretty upset. I
The
mean, believe it or
Christmas
not, I
holiday
haven't seen
special.
the Christmas special in a very long time. So it does say holiday special. Holy shit, it's 2 hours. So maybe
Dude,
it
yeah,
was.
it's long as shit, man.
Yeah,
It's as long as a Star Wars film.
I guess it was probably called the holiday special officially, but fans have always called it. I've never called it the holiday special. I've only ever like heard it talked about as the Christmas special. So I
Well,
bet.
yeah, it's because we're all, you know, Jesus worshiping families, and we say
Yeah.
Christmas, but the holiday is Life Day, and if you don't respect the Wookiee tradition of Life Day, then that's your loss.
Yeah, I'm just imagining being at retail and like telling people Happy Life Day.
Dude, honestly, I probably would. I probably would just get to the point, like if a customer is giving me shit, just be like, "Have a happy life day," and then they just give you like this weird shitty look, and then they just walk away.
Next scene, like hard cut. You're in the manager's office. So you think you're real cute, don't you?
Yeah, celebrating Life Day. We don't celebrate Life Day around here. We celebrate Christmas, maybe Hanukkah, not Life
You
Day.
know, Big
You're
Lots
fired.
is a Star Trek company.
See, I don't know what they celebrate in Star Trek. Maybe maybe they're post holiday. They don't have holidays anymore.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Star Trek holidays yet, but going on to a
Yeah.
more to a more traditional and yet not at all Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, which is a movie that takes place on Christmas, but was never intended to be a Christmas movie, except for the fact that it was public access. It was a failure commercially, and I believe critically as well, and it gained a new life because it was always played on television on Christmas because it was a cheap public access movie, and so it is
Sure.
now one of the most beloved of all time.
But it is a really good movie, though. So I always find it fascinating when, like, the movie originally did not succeed in some metric, then became, like, enameled in history. Interesting.
Yeah, it just goes to show you sometimes, like, if you love a movie and maybe it's, rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, or the box office doesn't pay off, that only time can tell with some of these cases. And even if they're not huge movies, they'll develop cult followings. I mean,
Yeah.
there's documentaries made about Nightmare on Elm Street too. You can never tell what's gonna
Right.
stick.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. No, I love It's a Wonderful Life. And I when people say it's a Christmas movie, I mean, I can understand that sentiment because I think it's a reminder of the real true themes of Christmas without, like, the story could happen and it not be Christmas, right? This guy has gone through a lot of shit. He's trying to provide for his family, and he's just feeling down in the dumps, and he wants to kill himself, right? So that story could happen not on Christmas, but they use the Christmas season as, I would argue, like, some element of the story enough that it's not like Die Hard, where it's literally just the setting is Christmas. It's a little more Christmas than that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think thematically it works with Christmas, and that's why it was set at that time, because you get like the angel imagery, you get these themes like family and appreciating life and all this stuff, and also the awkwardness that comes with that, and the struggles of family, the struggles of looking at where you've gone in life, and all that. But like, it fits for Christmas, but it's not about Christmas necessarily, and yet it just
Right.
kind of works. A big part of it is, I believe, either it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but Jimmy Stewart's character in it saves his brother who almost died sled riding, and he goes into an ice, thin ice in the water that cracks, and he falls in. And it's one of those movies that the older I get, the more I just appreciate it and identify with it. And
Right.
I do plan on watching it this year. I feel like it's gonna be a very heavy experience as a 26-year-old who's turning 27 just 2 months after, really just 1 month after I'll be watching it. So I'm very interested to see how that movie will grow with me, and kind of worried.
Just don't go near bridges, Todd. I know there's a lot in Pittsburgh. Just don't go do it.
because of Bane blowing them up.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always that concern. So
And that's a Christmas movie because there's a little bit of snow in it.
you know what? We referenced Batman, so why not? Did you watch the Batman animated series Christmas Joker episode when you were a child?
I didn't. I was not into superheroes as a kid, really, at all, for the most part. And I've heard great things about Batman the Animated Series. I remember seeing it on TV, but not watching it. So that's something I really need to catch up on because I think I'd really love it now. But I just
I
didn't
think
have that
you really
interest as a
would.
kid.
Absolutely. And just like the Joker episode is like where the Batman smells Robin laid an egg Jingle Bells like song came from, and it's just a really cute episode. And like they have to like deal with Joker's wacky bullshit that he's trying to pull off, but at the same time, like Robin keeps trying to get Bruce to like just, hey, why don't we just enjoy Christmas? It's like, and I think at one point Robin is even like, hey, It's a Wonderful Life is on. Batman's like, fuck it, we got work to do. And Alfred's like, oh, we got work to do. Eventually, they get to enjoy a little bit of Christmas after they thwart the Joker's plan. So it's really nice. It's cute.
That does sound. I'm trying to think of great Christmas specials from various shows, but it's kind of lacking in a lot of the shows that I've seen. Trying to think.
I like the
about it.
SpongeBob one, the original SpongeBob Christmas special.
Which one was that?
So the original, like when I talk about SpongeBob, it's like there are 3 seasons of SpongeBob, and then Steven Hillenburg left the production. So that's when Sandy, since Sandy is from the surface, Sandy is telling everybody that Santa exists. So everybody in Bikini Bottom is like fascinated with the concept. So they're all sending their Christmas wishes via message in a bottle. And then Squidward is, of course, Mr. Scrooge in all of this. So he doesn't believe Santa is going to come. So Santa doesn't come, and everybody's waiting all night long. And SpongeBob gets super depressed. Then Squidward starts feeling like an ass. So in a moment of clarity, Squidward impersonates Santa Claus and starts giving everybody in Bikini Bottom his household appliances as Christmas gifts.
I vaguely remember that. I haven't watched the classic SpongeBob since a kid, and I didn't watch it much longer after classic SpongeBob years ended. But I remember there being a few, one of which I believe actually had Santa Claus, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, and then Santa Claus like does show up in the end, and he's like a guy, real guy, and he's like laughing maniacally and freaking out.
Okay, that's what I remember. I remember there being an end like stinger bit where you see Santa.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
I have to, since you mentioned Scrooge, I gotta mention that with Bill Murray, Scrooged, which is a pretty fun, I think late 80s movie.
That's when Bill Murray did so much. God, that was his decade. I actually have never seen Scrooged, but I have to imagine it's similar to A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, it's a retelling of that, but he's basically like a network executive in New York on a TV show, and it's just a kind of a postmodern late 80s take on A Christmas Carol, and it's exactly what you'd expect, more or less, and it's very satisfying as that.
Yeah, I remember, God, maybe it was like 10 years ago, they remade A Christmas Carol, and they just called it like Scrooge or something. Jim Carrey was Scrooge or some bullshit. It was an animated movie.
Okay, yeah, that was totally different. But I guess...
Right. No, I know that's different. I just was bringing it up because I remembered it existed. I don't know if it was good. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. I gotta say, 2 shows that oddly enough have good Christmas specials are The Simpsons and South Park. Both consistently had good Christmas specials, I always remember, and being excited to watch those as a kid.
Do The Simpsons and South Park like do a new one every single year?
I'm not quite sure. I think Simpsons did. I remember I had a VHS tape of the Treehouse of Horror. I had some of those classics, and I had a VHS tape of some classic Christmas episodes for The Simpsons. And I haven't watched the show, cohesively in a very, very long time, since I was like 11 or 12, even though I've gone back and watched classic episodes and certain seasons since then. But South Park always had kind of a Christmassy aesthetic with the snow-covered town, and it began as a Christmas special. It began as Jesus versus Santa. It was a kind of a student project that the creators of the show did that it was like one of the first viral things, so to speak. And so that one's always had kind of a Christmas aesthetic that was just further utilized in the show as it went on.
So who would win, Jesus or Santa, Todd?
It would have to be a tie. I think they would respect each other mutually.
You think they're the same person?
I'm not going to say they are, but I won't say they aren't.
There you go. That's probably the politically correct answer.
Yeah. I don't want this show to get taken off YouTube because I made the wrong choice on the Jesus Santa debate.
Yeah, who knows? They might find that audio clip in our video and be like, "No, they're talking about religion."
But
It's
here's the
not
thing:
allowed.
Santa gives gifts every year, right?
Right.
But Jesus gave the greatest gift, the gift of salvation, and that's every day.
Right. Do you have a punchline here, or you just
No, I was just saying.
just comparing apples to apples here?
But in the
Apples to
ring, I
what?
mean, Jesus would probably have a pretty mean pile driver, and Santa's
Okay,
kind of out
but
of shape.
what if a child wrote to Santa and the one thing she wanted for Christmas was salvation?
He would have to call a friend.
But what if Santa could give and grant that to her? Because Santa can do anything.
I'm
So
imagining Rick from Pawn Stars, and he's like has a Santa hat on and the beard, and he's like, I have a friend who's an expert in salvation. Let me give him a call.
yeah, no, I like to think that they're friends. They're tight.
Oh, definitely. I think on that note, it's probably about time to wrap up the Christmas special. We're officially getting into Pawn Stars fan fiction, so
Yeah, we're getting into Pawn Stars and Jesus. Maybe Jesus got to go on Pawn Stars.
Yeah, and we have
Gotta do
entire episodes dedicated to those concepts, so we can't give that material away too soon.
Got it. That's for the new year. Well, thank you guys for listening to us ramble for the majority of 2020. We did it. Look at us.
Yeah, and in 2021 we'll have more to come. It may not be better, but it'll be worse.
I was gonna say you can bet your ass it'll be worse. Well, who should do it? You should close it. I don't know, man. Who's gonna do it?
I was waiting. It was a stare down. I was gonna see if you were gonna do some gimmicky thing where like, well, I'm naughty and I'm nice and.
Okay, well, I can do that.
Oh, that's so.
Jingle
It's giving me
bell.
douche chills.
Enter chills. Rudolph is a shill.
And I'm Todd Crawford.
And I am Eric Zavinski.
And we are too cool for the Christmas shop.